Hi everyone, this is Artemis HD, bringing you gameplay of tank gameplay of the PANZER IV H in Battlefield 5's open beta. Here I'm going to be talking about brief history about the actual vehicle and the famous battles that this vehicle was in, and also talk about the way how my play style is, and tactics. Let's talk about the history. PANZER IV was born on October 1937 on the assembly line. It was born in the manufacturer plant of Krupp. Krupp was the manufacturer who actually helped make this tank. Its original armament, though, had a low velocity 75mm KWK L-24 gun on it. That was its main armament. Later versions would later have a 75mm L-43 PAC-40 main armament. That would be the longer barrel one you see right now. Also, for future PANZER IV H's would end up becoming PANZER IV G versions, where those actually had modifications done where they had space armor, like armor side skirts where the tracks are, and also extra space armor around the turret ring, or around the turret, to protect the crew from the new American and British anti-tank shots or shells that the Americans and British were designing against the Tiger tanks and Panthers. It was one of the most iconic and famous tanks of World War II. It was used in the invasion of France. It was used in Operation Barbarossa. It saw great service throughout 1939, throughout 1945. It saw great service. It was one of the longest medium service tanks in the German Wehrmacht military, in the Panzer divisions in service. Like I said, it lasted from 1939 all the way to 1945. It actually phased out by it was actually phased out by a new main battle tank, the Panther, that was actually front sloped armor, angled armor plated. And hopefully, maybe in later videos when the full game comes out, maybe they're going to actually show a Panther. I don't know, but hopefully I'll do a video on that when I get a chance. So I really hope you guys stay tuned for that. This tank was very good. There were so many series of this tank. There was the Panzer F series, the Panzer F2 series, and the Panzer G series, and H. H is obviously the one I'm using, one that really isn't fancy, doesn't have armor plates on it, no side skirts, no space armor, no nothing. It's just a regular one with the main armament of the PAC-40 into the turret. The PANZER IV main battle tank actually held its own against the main battle tank of the Soviet Union and Shermans, and Americans basically. It fought against, and its equals were the T-34 and the M3 Lees, the M3 Grant, the M3 Sherman, the M4 Sherman. I mean, this tank was a medium tank, but it still dealt its damage. It still had a bark and it still had a bite that would hurt and kill people really bad. And it was still an iconic tank. It's very iconic. It's just like the Tiger one, I believe, or the Panther. It's just a well-known good tank. There are so many stories, combat stories about using a PANZER IV in combat during World War II. For instance, the Soviets, it was so bad that the Soviets in Stalingrad, actually, when the rebel was the worst thing for the German military. After blowing up Stalingrad with cluster, like basically bombing runs on Stalingrad, they made Stalingrad a perfect tank trap city to kill tanks. In Operation Barbarossa, the original Panzer IVs, 3s, and 2s that were being used, including other variant German tanks that were just like the Panzer IV that were being used, originally didn't have good armor. So the later versions would have 50mm thick armor, or even 55mm thick armor in some cases. Those are very rare. Its armaments were 2 MG34 coaxial machine guns. One is featured in the hall on the right-hand side, where a co-driver seat is. The other is actually mounted in the hall next to the main armament gun, next to the commander, gunner, or loader. I think it's next to the gunner. I'm not sure, but I think it is. Those were actually chambered in 7.92 caliber bullet rounds. Those are, in English, I would think 8mm, basically German 8mm rounds. So very simple stuff. But anyway, that's a brief history about it, and let's get on with the tactics. So, in Battlefield 5, it's very different from all the other Battlefield games. It feels great actually being in a vehicle. For instance, it's between Battlefield 1 tank gameplay and between Battlefield 4. I do have my questions and concerns about the tanks, and there are some things that I disagree with one or two people about the tanks. First of all, they do feel like, the driving mechanics do feel like I'm driving tanks from Battlefield 4. Though, the armor makes me feel like I'm playing with tanks in Battlefield 1. So there are a few things that I felt different when driving this. Also, there are people complaining that this tank is overpowerful. The last time people complained that tanks were overpowerful were in Battlefield 1. And look where the tanks happen there. They're just like Battlefield 4's tanks. Swiss cheese. Paper thin armor. I don't think it's fair that a landmine should blow up one vehicle. One landmine or 3 landmines are able to, I guess. But still, I don't think it's one person should be able thing. I think it should be a group effort, and I think that takes skills. And that's my opinion. The only reason why the tanks are overpowerful is because it has a great tank commander or operator, like me, driving those tanks. And I think the only way you can kill me is to have skill. You gotta have skill to take out a tank, you gotta have skill in general to even drive any vehicle in a combat scenario. In this video, you've obviously seen how aggressive I am. I do play aggressively, and I do engage targets at close quarter combat and exclusively long distant combat. Majority of the time, I engage targets at greater distances than up close. As long as I haven't died, and I've gotten more kills compared to deaths, I think I'm doing a pretty good job at helping my team win the game by taking away the enemy team's tickets. And like I said, it's a group effort, so I think it should take a full squad to wipe out one tank. And that should be based on skill. But like I said, I'm pretty well good. For the most part, strategically, I like going on the high ground with the tanks. Actually, C and E both have houses. On the C side, there's a yellow house near C. And between C and E, there is a greenhouse on a hill. Several times in this video, you've seen me on that hill doing great. There is another video of me in a tank and a tiger doing phenomenal on that hill. You can actually take a support players and actually build fortifications up there, and if someone can get pack 40s, or I would think tow a anti-air gun up there, you guys can use an 20mm anti-air over there as like a heavy machine gun nest over at E. and we can protect it, or it can be taken, basically. But that's why I'm on top of the E flag all the time, and you know, they're just great high ground. I'm very cautious in an armor vehicle. I think anybody who drives an armor vehicle should be very cautious. And basically, like I said, skill set. It's all skill, and it's all thinking about where you're gonna go, where you want to set up, and like for instance here I am. I circled around the whole map because they took Echo, and I was on the low side. I was on the low ground. So I moved around through spawn, refurbished my tank with more ammo, and ended up going on Echo. Here, I'm not really taking the objective, though I'm watching and overseeing my teammates, my blueberries, my basically brothers in arms in the battle right now in the game. And we're doing well. When I see them, I'm watching them. As you can see, I'm watching my own teammates, and I'm engaging targets that they're fighting with. So I am supporting my team, and I am doing stuff. So people will criticize the way I gameplay, and that's very hard. But anyway, I really hope you guys loved my video, and I really hope what I said made sense, and I really hope you guys learned stuff about the Panzer IV. And this is Artemis HD. I'll see you all on the battlefield.
Soldiers, we have taken objective Anton.